September 25th, 2013. Zhodino, Belarus. A truck rolls out of a factory 50 kilometers from Minsk. A 450 metric ton payload, 810 tons loaded. Two German V16 diesel engines, 4,600 horsepower combined. 8 tires, each one nearly 4 meters tall. The BELAZ 75710, the largest mining truck ever built. Bigger than anything Caterpillar, Komatsu, or Liebherr had ever produced. In January 2014, it entered the Guinness Book of World Records. Twice. Largest two-axle dump truck. Most capacious mining body. It hauled 4.6 million tons of rock in its first year alone. It worked. And within 8 years, the factory that built it was cut off from the German engines, the German drivetrain, and the German steel that made it possible. Not because of a market crash, not because of a design flaw, because of a stolen election. This is what happens when you build the world's largest truck inside a dictatorship. If you are interested in the hidden stories behind industrial machines that change the world, subscribe. We cover what nobody else does. The equipment that worked, failed, or quietly disappeared. The BELAZ factory started in 1948. It began as a peat machinery plant built near a railroad station in Soviet Belarus. By 1958, it was renamed BELAZ and was assembling 25-ton dump trucks transferred from the Minsk automobile plant. In 1960, an engineer named Z.L. Sirotkin arrived from Minsk with a small team of designers. Their assignment was to stop improving the old MAZ trucks and to build something entirely new. Within a year, they had the BELAZ 540 with a 27-ton payload, pneumatic and hydraulic suspension, a hydromechanical transmission, and a bucket-type dump body unlike anything else in Soviet industry. That truck put Zhodino on the map, a true breakthrough. By 1967, BELAZ had a 40-ton model. By 1977, there were trucks over 100 tons. By the mid-1980s, the factory employed over 10,000 people and was producing up to 6,000 mining trucks per year. That was roughly half the world's total output of that class. Soviet open-pit mines from Siberia to Central Asia ran on BELAZ iron. The company generated 900 million euros in annual revenue. It was the single largest employer in Zhodino. The factory and the city were the same thing. Then the Soviet Union collapsed. Nearly everything around BELAZ died. State enterprises shut down, were stripped by oligarchs, or simply ceased to exist. BELAZ survived. It kept building trucks for the mines that still needed them. Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, places where Caterpillar's dealer networks did not reach. Places where the nearest authorized service center was 1,000 kilometers away, and the temperature hit -50. BELAZ had 60 years of knowledge about building trucks for exactly those conditions, and prices those operators could actually afford. By the 2000s, BELAZ had rebuilt itself into a serious manufacturer. $954 million were invested in expanding production at Zhodino. A brand new assembly facility was built by Soligorsk Construction Trust No. 3. Trucks at 200 tons, 300 tons, 360 tons. Their 75600 series models were competing with Caterpillar and Liebherr on raw capacity. Exports to over 70 countries. But BELAZ's core customers, the Russian coal operators, wanted more. They were running 360-ton fleets on the same haul roads and asking for a truck that could carry more tonnage per trip without widening the roads or replacing the loading equipment. The math was straightforward. Fewer trips means fewer trucks, fewer drivers, less fuel, less congestion, lower cost per ton moved. BELAZ's answer was the 75710. Here is the engineering problem they had to solve. In mining trucks, bigger payload usually means bigger tires. But the largest tires available in 2013 were already being used on BELAZ's 360-ton model. There were no bigger tires to buy. Michelin and Bridgestone did not make them. So BELAZ could not go bigger vertically, they had to go wider. Chief designer Leonid Trukhnov and his team redesigned the weight distribution entirely. A conventional mining truck puts roughly 70% of its load on the rear axle. The model 75710 spread the weight evenly across both axles by doubling the wheels, 4 in the front, 4 in the rear, 8 tires total. The layout borrowed a concept from the 1950s International Pay Hauler 350. Both axles pivoted, giving the truck 4-wheel drive and four-wheel hydraulic steering. Turning radius was 19.8 meters at the factory test track and about 31 meters in operation. For a machine weighing 810 tons loaded, that is only 14 meters wider than the 360-ton trucks it was designed to replace. The frame used Swedish high-strength steel, giving it exceptional strength. SSAB Weldox 700F in 110mm and 125mm plates was used for the swivel carriage that connected the axle to the frame. Hardox 450 formed the dump body. The parts were pre-processed by SSAB in Sweden and assembled in Belarus. BELAZ was nominated for the Swedish Steel Prize in 2014 for the design. Power came from two MTU DD16 V4000 engines, German-built V16 four-stroke diesel engines. Each had 65 liters displacement. They produced 2,300 horsepower each at 1,900 RPM. Combined, they delivered 4,600 horsepower and over 18,600 newton-meters of torque from a total displacement of 130 liters. The engines did not drive the wheels mechanically. Instead, they powered alternators. The alternators fed electricity to a Siemens MMT500 alternating current traction drive system and to four 1,200 kilowatt electric motors mounted in the wheel hubs, the same basic principle as a locomotive. Siemens engineers could remotely monitor the truck's performance and push software updates from their offices in Alpharetta, Georgia, without ever setting foot in Siberia. If the truck was running light, one engine could shut down entirely. Fuel consumption was roughly 500 liters per hour under load. The fuel tank held 5,600 liters, enough for about a full shift before refueling. The truck could operate in temperatures from -60 to +50 degrees Celsius, at altitudes up to 5,000 meters above sea level. It could climb 14% sustained grades and short slopes, up to 18%. Top speed, 64 kilometers per hour. BELAZ claimed a 25% productivity gain over the largest trucks then in service. Trukhnov noted the 75710 was also 180 millimeters lower than the 360-ton model, which mattered for loading stability and excavator clearance. August 21, 2014. The first production unit was commissioned at the Chernigovets coal mine in Russia's Kuznetsk Basin. The mine was operated by SDS-Ugol, part of the Sibirsky Delovoy Soyuz holding company. The governor of Kemerovo Oblast, Aman Tuleyev, personally launched the operation. By December 2014, the truck had completed 960 runs and hauled over 1 million tons of overburden. Drivers reported no significant complaints. One of only two test drivers to operate the truck in real mining conditions, Andrei Vashkevich, said it was easy to drive, but that you needed time to get used to its dimensions. He said the all-wheel drive made a real difference on slippery roads. By the end of its first full year, the 75710 had transported 4.6 million tons, roughly 10,200 full loads. A second unit was already under construction. 5 more were on order for 2015. Additional units were delivered to mines in Russia and Kazakhstan. How many were built total? Nobody outside BELAZ knows for certain. Industry estimates say fewer than 50 since the 2013 debut. BELAZ has never published a production figure. Here's the strange part. The BELAZ 75710 was the undisputed largest truck on Earth. It held 2 Guinness records. It was hauling millions of tons per year, and it operated almost exclusively in former Soviet territories. Western mining companies knew about it the way you know about a rumor. YouTube videos, spec sheets, no independent field reports, no fleet comparisons from consulting firms, no case studies from Australian or North American mines. A senior mining engineer at Golder Associates called it a great piece of engineering, but wondered about operating efficiency with the dual-engine setup. Caterpillar's 797F carried 363 tons. Liebherr's T284 carried 363 tons. The BELAZ's 75710 carried 450 tons. And nobody in the Western mining world was buying one. The truck did not need the West. It needed the components that came from the West. August 9th, 2020. Belarus held a presidential election. Alexander Lukashenko, in power since 1994, claimed 80% of the vote. Independent observers and the Belarusian population did not believe it. hundreds of thousands took to the streets. The security forces responded with mass arrests, beatings, and credible reports of torture in detention. Over 7,000 people were arrested in the first 4 days. Across the country, workers at state enterprises joined strikes. On August 13th, BELAZ workers walked off the job. Several hundred gathered at the factory gate. Management came out. The mayor of Żodyno arrived. The conversation was heated but controlled. Workers demanded the release of detained colleagues and relatives, the expulsion of riot police from Żodyno, and a recount of votes. They chanted "Go away" in Belarusian, directed at Lukashenko. They were also angry that police had been using BELAZ haulage vehicles to transport detained protesters through their city. The mayor promised to meet them again that evening. On August 17th, hundreds of BELAZ workers marched through the factory again. They carried banners. They demanded Lukashenko's resignation. What happened next is documented in the European Union's official sanctions decision. BELAZ management threatened striking workers with layoffs and intimidated them. A group of employees was physically locked inside the factory to prevent them from joining protesters outside. Management presented the strike to the media as a routine staff meeting. The factory that built the largest truck on Earth locked its own workers inside to stop them from protesting a stolen election. The company also offered its premises and equipment to stage a pro-regime political rally. June 21st, 2021. The EU sanctioned BELAZ. It cited the company as a significant revenue source for the Lukashenko regime. Canada sanctioned BELAZ the same day. Switzerland followed. In March 2023, the U.S. Treasury placed BELAZ and its CEO, Sergei Nikiforovich, on the specially designated nationals list. In May 2023, Ukraine imposed sanctions. The sanctions hit where it mattered most: supply chain. The MTU engines were German. The Siemens traction drive was German. The SSAB steel was Swedish. On June 30, 2021, Rolls-Royce ended all cooperation with BELAZ. In September 2021, Cummins joined the ban. Liebherr, Danfoss, Geramatic, and Yokohama all cut ties. Every major Western supplier of engines, drivetrain components, tires, and electrical systems walked away. A financial analyst at the Russian firm Alpari Eurasia said engine supply was the most pressing issue, and that production problems would be severe. Even Chinese companies were reluctant to step in. Nobody wanted to risk secondary sanctions for a Belarusian truck factory. BELAZ tried to keep selling. A joint investigation by OCCRP, the Belarusian Investigative Center, and the Lithuanian outlet Siena found the company hired a Lithuanian firm called Belship to ship 10 trucks to Chile through the port of Klaipėda. The fee was $1.1 million. Belship was owned by a former deputy director of a Vilnius prison. Lithuanian customs intercepted 18 containers holding 4 disassembled trucks in September 2021 and blocked the shipment. A separate cargo of spare parts bound for Bosnia was turned back at the border. A Lithuanian member of parliament filed a criminal complaint. The story got worse in Chile. BELAZ had a subsidiary there called BELAZ Movitech, with a contract to supply trucks to Codelco, Chile's state-owned copper mining company. After the sanctions hit, the subsidiary became entangled in a bribery scandal. Chilean prosecutors alleged that a Supreme Court judge received payments in exchange for favorable rulings in a dispute between the BELAZ consortium and Codelco. 3 suspects were ordered held in custody. Codelco terminated its contract with BELAZ in February 2023 and assigned the remaining work to Komatsu and others. Belarus's first deputy industry minister acknowledged the problems publicly. He said engines were the priority, and he said Russian and Chinese suppliers were being explored. Here is the reality. Ultra-class mining engines are not commodity parts. They are precision units designed to run under extreme thermal and mechanical loads for tens of thousands of hours. The global supply of engines capable of powering a 450-ton truck is limited to a handful of manufacturers in Germany, the United States, and Japan. All of them are now restricted from selling to BELAZ or unwilling to risk it. Siemens built the entire traction drive system and could remotely service the truck from the United States. Siemens is a German company operating under European Union sanctions law. That remote service link is gone. The BELAZ 75710 is still on the company's website. The factory at Żodyno is still operating, reportedly doubling investments in production. But the truck that broke every size record in mining was engineered as a collaboration between Belarusian design, German engines, German electrical systems, and Swedish steel. That collaboration no longer exists. Units delivered before the sanctions may still be running in Siberian coal mines. Whether new ones can be built to the same standard with the same precision is a question nobody at BELAZ has answered publicly. The pattern is consistent. A machine pushes past every engineering limit of its time, and then something outside engineering kills it. The Terex Titan proved a 350-ton truck could work. Economics killed it. The Caterpillar 6120B was the largest hydraulic excavator ever built. A corporate acquisition killed it. The BELAZ 75710 is different. The machine worked, the economics worked, the engineering worked. What killed its future was a dictator who stole an election, workers who had the courage to walk off the line, a factory that locked them inside for it, and a world that decided the consequences should land on the supply chain. That is the BELAZ 75710, the largest truck ever built, and the factory that may not be able to build another one. For more stories about machines that changed industries, check the videos on screen. And if you want to see what we're covering next, subscribe.